Today we are going to talk about subtracting fractions. So let's take a look at this pair of fractions right here. So 2/3 minus 1/2. So at first glance you might be tempted just to do 2 minus 1 equals 1 over 3 minus 2 equals 1, which would give you 1. Of course, we cannot do that. So that begs the question, what is 2/3 minus 1/2? How do we do that? And in order to do this, we need to find something called the least common denominator. So the lowest common denominator we are going to explore between 2 and 3. So in many cases, how we would find the least or lowest common denominator is to multiply 2 by 3 and we would get 6. And that is the case for this problem. So what we need to do is we need to transform these fractions into proportions over 6. So how do we get 2/3 as a proportion over 6? So in order to do that, in most cases when we find the lowest common denominator, we are going to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 1. And looking at this, does it look like I multiplied the numerator and the denominator by 1? No, I multiplied it by 2 over 2, which is, of course, 1. I'm going to do the same thing with the other fraction, the 1/2, except for this time I need to get the denominator to be 6, so I'm going to multiply it by 3 over 3, which of course is 1. And now we have 4 over 6 is 2/3, and 3 over 6 is 1/2. And now we can do our subtraction of fractions. So we have 4 over 6 minus 3 over 6, which will give us our final answer of 1 over 6. So let's take a look at another problem. Here we have 5 over 12, or 5/12 minus 1 over 4, 1/4. Now to do this, we can't just simply go 5 minus 1 and 12 minus 4 and get 4 over 8 for our answer. Once again, we need to find a common denominator. In this case, we actually don't need to do anything to the 5 over 12 because 12 is the lowest common denominator between these two fractions. So we still have 5 over 12, and now we want to get this 1/4 in terms of 12 as a denominator. And to do that, we're just going to multiply it by 3 over 3, which is, of course, 1. So that changes the 1/4 into 3 over 12. So now we can do 5 over 12 minus 3 over 12 and get 2 over 12, which we can also reduce to 1 over 6. So we're going to try one more challenging or relatively challenging fraction subtraction problem here. So now we have 5 over 7 or 5/7 minus 2/5. And to do this, once again, we're going to need to find the lowest common denominator. And in most cases when we're doing these, when we're trying to find the lowest common denominator, all we need to do is simply multiply the two denominators together. So here we're going to go 7 times 5, and that's going to give us 35. So in this case, 35 is our lowest common denominator, and we need to turn these two fractions into terms of a single number over 35. So I have 5 over 7, and I'm going to multiply it by 1, which in this case I'm going to turn 1 into 5 over 5. So that's going to give me 25 over 35. And the same thing with the second fraction, except for I'm going to multiply it by 7 over 7, which is, once again, 1. And that's going to give me 14 over 35. So now we have two fractions with the same denominator, and we can do our subtraction. So now we can do our subtraction. We have 25 minus 14, which is going to give us 11 over 35, and that actually cannot be simplified. So we are done, and our final answer is 11 over 35. And that is how you add and subtract fractions. I'm going to give you a few problems on the next slide that you can try on your own. Just remember, find a common denominator, and then you can subtract the numerators. So here are 2 problems for you to do on your own of various difficulty. Just remember what we said about finding a lowest common denominator, and you should be fine. Thank you for watching.